everyone. Welcome here. I just want to start out with you guys introducing yourself to the audience. I want to start with Stephanie O.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Osuna Hernandez, or Stepho for short, and I am the director of Dreamer. I'm from Inglewood, California. I don't know what else to say, but yeah. Happy to be here.
All right. Well, thanks for being on. And Delilah.
Hi, I'm Delilah. I'm the producer of Dreamer, and I'm actually from Dorchester, Massachusetts.
And Jeanette.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Dilone, and I am the writer, director, one of the producers, and I have a very tiny role in the end of Rizo.
All right. And Danielle.
Hey there, I'm Daniel. I'm the writer and actor in Dreamer, and I'm from Houston, Texas.
And Carly.
Hello, I'm Carly Rogers, writer and director for Missing. I am from Maine, but currently Los Angeles based.
All right. And Yolonda J.
Yes, I'm Yolanda Johnson-Young, director of Finding Elijah, and I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All right. All right. So I'm just going to, because I'm on my iPhone, so I'm seeing you guys in like different blocks and different screens and having to swipe over. So I'm going to start with actually, because let me see. I'm going to start with Carly Rogers with The Missing, because this was an interesting film because I watched it and it's so true the way. I'll let you know what, you explain your film, explain how you came up with the premise, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, awesome. Yes, so this is actually a student-produced film at USC Film School, and I came up with the premise of the film as an assignment for a class, and I had no ideas, and a professor said, you know, think about things that really make you angry or upset you, and try to write something about that. And so I thought a lot about kind of this missing white woman syndrome and the media behind all of that, and kind of came up with a story and wanted to tell it from the perspective of a mother, because I feel like moms are always kind of the heart of the family. And so it kind of shows her struggle in trying to find help, not only from the police, but in the media as well. And kind of has that somber tone to it, because this is something that people really face every day. It's going on out there. And so I found that it was something that a lot of people didn't know, didn't realize that there was kind of a disparity when women specifically go missing. And so it was an important thing that I wanted to bring attention to.
Right. Well, I enjoyed it. I felt that I could feel the mother's like aggravation, like, why aren't you guys taking this seriously? I'm telling you, I know my kid and she's not here. And they're just like very dismissive, very condescending to her. But so I understood like her frustration. And so I just want to know, what were the challenges in making the film?
The biggest challenge actually was trying to recreate a police station without being in a police station, which is sort of a funny like production kind of thing, and making it seem real, which I think we ended up doing a pretty good job. Our crew was also really, really tiny. There were 3 of us as the main crew. Craig, who's my DP, and Vanessa was sound and produced. And so we had a lot of work to do and trying to stay true to the story. But it was a lot of fun. We had a ton of fun almost a year ago. So that was really it.
Okay. So let's see. The importance of your film during these times. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, when I made it was before kind of the blow up this year of everything that's happened. And as time has gone on, I've realized, you know, supporting Black women and protecting Black women, as it's kind of coined the term this year, has been really, really important. And having a film that speaks to that and sort of shows another disparity in society of what's happening to Black and brown women out there has been really, really important. And I think that's why a lot of people have liked the film so much, and a lot of feedback that I've gotten is because it's an important story. And it was powerful for me to be able to tell it and keep it kind of a quiet recognition of that.
Okay, so they wanted, like, people want to know, what are you going to be working on next?
Next, yes, so I am still in school among this COVID madness. So I'm trying to develop something that can be done in a kind of COVID friendly way, but my actual next project, I was shifting to another kind of area of the Black society in something to do with policing, but from the inside, kind of looking out. So we will see what happens, but I'm excited to hopefully bring whatever it is to everyone again.
Okay, so we have a question here, all right, and it's from Andrea Lyman. She wants to know, was it difficult to sit with the pain in your film? Were there techniques to help your cast and crew cope with the sadness?
Yeah, I think Lisa, especially, who is our lead actress who played the mom, was absolutely amazing. She definitely had a lot of emotion as we were filming, and her and I were able to kind of go through each page of the script and spend a lot of time. And then at the end of the day, you know, our crew was fun, and it was such a fast shoot that I think we all were on board with kind of the mission of the film. And the sadness part of it wasn't so big as we were doing it, but more so when we were editing and trying to find a balance between not making the film so incredibly depressing, making sure people could kind of see the message behind it. And Vanessa actually edited for me, and we just took a lot of time with it. And I just kind of had a realization, like, if I were to go missing, this is what could happen. And I think over all of the emotion, that was the important part. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move along because I know we have some time constraints here. But thank you for answering my questions. So, all right. So I guess we can do this in, like, I can ask all of you as a collective the next questions, and you guys can just chime in. Okay. So any one of you can answer this question. Anyone can chime in at any time. So how did any of your stories come to you? Should I pick someone?
Well, I would say I'll say for Dreamer, actually, Stephanie actually called me and said, "Hey, do you want to help me produce this short written by Daniel?" And I said, "Yeah." So this is Daniel's story. He wrote this, and we just helped him put it together and make it come true. So maybe Daniel can tell us why he wrote it.
Hi, you guys.
Hi.
I think I grew up with an immigrant single mom. My family's from Mexico, and I think I've always growing up and watching my mom kind of like struggle financially and struggle kind of to achieve this American dream. I think I've just been kind of fascinated by the idea how we're kind of fed this ideology of, you know, if you work hard, you'll kind of see the fruits of your labor. When the reality is that in the society we live in, that's not true. Some people have certain opportunities to succeed and others do not. And there are plenty of people, I think, that we know, right, like my mom, who work incredibly hard, who won't see the opportunities that, let's say, I've seen. And some of those things have just come from mere luck or kind of just the cards that were handed to us. So I think part of the inspiration for my short came from that, wanting to create a character who was dreaming big, right, and wanted to achieve certain things, and just out of the cards that were dealt with, you know, to him, he wouldn't be able to achieve certain things. And I think also I wanted to. I'm also really interested sort of like in the intersectionalities of identity. I think in TV or in film, you know, now we're starting to see some queer characters, right? Now we're starting to see some Latino characters, but I think we hardly ever see that intersectionality and what that can look like, right? And as a, you know, as a queer Latino, I think that's always something that I think those intersectionalities are really important to me, and I kind of wanted to put that in the forefront.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this out there because we have some time constraints. I'm gonna ask Yolonda J. What were your challenges in making the film?
Finding Elijah. It was really difficult for me because I was trying to put the pieces, trace his steps. You know, I was trying to break into his devices. You know, I found his social media accounts and different things like that. And just the healing process, because I started I started learning documentary filmmaking 2 months after he passed away.
Okay.
So I just jumped right in. You know, he was a filmmaker prior to his disappearance and ultimate suicide. But, you know, I just figured that as a grieving parent, you know, I wanted to make sure that, number one, I could share him, you know, and since he wouldn't physically be able to make a movie, my decision was intentional that I used his original art, his original writings, and his photographs to try and give him a voice in the film. So that was, and editing was extremely difficult on this project. So yeah, but those are some challenges that I had.
Okay. All right. So I want to go to Jeanette. Hi, Jeanette.
Hello.
So I'm going to ask you the same question. What were the challenges in making the film, and how did the story come to you?
Well, the story came to me because I'm an actor and I have an acting background, and so I've always shared with other people, like, you always have those casting stories, and I had one a friend of mine who's Latino. He's Cali based. He's Mexican American. Be so, like, he's never been around Afro Latinos, and he doesn't know about our struggle. And he was so taken aback at the idea of a Latina supposed to, looking a certain way. And he just suggested I write about it, and I kind of, I just wrote about it.
Okay.
And challenges was really, for me, the biggest challenge is always the logistics, the producing. Writing and directing to me is really is joyous. Producing sometimes is really hard. It's like, for me, it's almost like it's like planning a wedding almost. Like, it just has to work out, like hour by hour, minute by minute. And there was a lot of actors in this. There was extras. There was maybe like 20, maybe like 30 people I was juggling with actors and cast and crew during production. So it was just making it happen was absolutely the hardest part.
Okay. And Stephanie, because Stephanie's been really quiet. So do you want to chime in and how, let me ask you, what's the importance of your film during these times?
I think just in general, what like kind of drew me to the story that Daniel just like pitched to me, like from the beginning, was kind of the idea that dreams look different to everyone. Like, we all don't have the same dream.
Right.
Being an undocumented queer Latino is different than like a white YouTuber, right? And how sometimes our dreams can't come to fruition because of other things in the world, right? So I think just the way that this country is ran right now, and just the way that undocumented folks are seen, like, it's so, like, it villainizes, a whole community. So I think it was important for us to kind of see, like, this is a humanized version of that, and how much it affects that one person that, like, we want to have equal dreams as white people, but it's always hard for us because there's like extra layers to it. So like, that's something that just drew me from the beginning, and being able to play with an experimental format where we do YouTube videos as like our way of storytelling.
YouTube is the best.
Yeah, I loved it. I love YouTube in general. So I was just like, this is just a great way, because at the end of the day, YouTubers only show you so much, right? So you're never gonna know the full story. So it's like, what does Fran choose to tell his audience, and what are his realities? You know, so that's why I think this short is very important, especially in a time like this.
All right. So, what do you want people to take away from your film? Anyone can chime in. What do you want people to take away from your film? Can I choose someone?
That mental health is important, you know, and we all need to get our, what do you say, the checkup from the neck up, you know, and to destigmatize it, you know.
Right.
But then when you really get down to it, there are valid reasons for the Black community having mistrust with the medical community, you know. So my suggestion is just try and try and try until you get the right fit, you know, because if you broke your arm, you would go to the doctor. So if you're having racing thoughts or suicidal thoughts, or, you know, you're always angry, you know, something, you know, just get checked out, you know, and see if you can just work through it, you know, because it's very important. I look at mental health, mental wealth is everybody's business. You know, that's my new slogan. Mental wealth is everybody's business.
Right.
You know, so
that's super important, especially nowadays. You have to really check in with people. But we do have some comments in the chat here. Let's see. So Renee Gilliard, she wants all the panelists to know that she really loved all of your films and the stories they uplifted. So that was her comment. And then we have another comment from Linda. She said, thank you all for making impactful stories that share common experiences with everyone. Let's see. And then
there's a couple of questions in the Q&A as well. So Linda's asking, for all the filmmakers in the process of making your films, what was something you learned during the process of sharing these common stories with the world? And did it reflect your own stories? Because we know oftentimes, you know, you're making films that are reflective of who you are and things that happened in your life. So what is something that you learned during the process of this?
I'm going to say that I met Stephanie working on a show back in LA, and we realized we were both first-gen children of immigrants, and she's Latina, but my parents are West African. And we realized how much in common we had as in culture, and how many things we go through that are really the same, but people really don't know how to put that together. Just because she's Mexican and my parents are West African doesn't mean that we're not one and the same. Like, we kind of struggle with the same kind of immigrant things. You know, you worry about your parents if they're undocumented, or if you are different than your family. Like in the film, you know, he suffered with his identity, but because of his identity, he could have put his family in a lot of problems and get them deported because he was seen too much. So I think we realized that we're a lot more the same than we are different based on our cultural norms that we come from. So we learned it a lot.
Wow.
Okay, so we got a question here. Stephanie O and Daniel, what did you like most about working together as writer and director?
I think it was very collaborative, and I think from the beginning, like I was like producer too, because like he would write the script and we would just talk about, okay, well, what is like the purpose? Like, what is Fran, feelings about this? Like, how would this? So I feel like even though like Daniel was the writer, I feel like he allowed me to kind of give a lot of feedback on what is it the story we're trying to tell. So I think that was really nice to be able to do that, because I'm a writer director too. So I think working with a writer for like the first time was like, it just felt like a really great collaborative relationship. And I feel like we really understood what we were trying to do.
Okay.
Stephanie and Delilah are incredible. They're incredible. I think for me, it for sure was a collaborative process that I enjoyed the most. I think, I lean more so writer, and there are certain things about stories that I write that I'm precious about, right? Like the message, but everything else, like I am a queer Latino, but I don't speak for all queer Latinos. I don't speak for all Latinos. I don't speak for, so the idea that you know, I can meet, like, right, Stephanie's Latina, but her experiences, some of them are different than mine, right? And she has certain different opinions than I do, and I want to hear those. And so, yeah, so it was for sure the collaborative process that I enjoyed the most.
Okay.
Was that the same for everybody? Was that the same for Missing and Elijah and Rizo? Carly, I think you're muted.
Oh, yep, there we go. I found it. Yeah, I think this film was the first one that I really had collaborated with others on too. So I went through that whole same process as Daniel and Steph, and it's definitely interesting to learn as you go. And I think with Missing in particular, it was an interesting learning experience, finding out kind of the level of awareness for everyone, like especially with my team, and just like trying to navigate the whole world of making a very specific film in a specific time. That meant something. And so I think that was definitely one of the benefits and one of the things that I'm really glad I took away from the whole experience. So.
Yolanda?
Well, this was actually my first film. And working with Scribe Video Center here in Philadelphia, I was able to I was just greeted with such warmness, you know, to make the film. So and for me, before COVID hit, I started my festival run in August of last year, and being in person for this film, I've only made this one, so I'm not really sure what that experience is going to be like with other films. But I know with this film, it was, whoa, you know, because prior to having this experience with losing my son, you know, suicide wasn't on my radar. You know, it really wasn't on my radar. So it wasn't something that I thought about, or I just didn't, you know, but yeah, to see the reaction from the Q&As that I had in person were a lot. You know, I had to really like pull back a little bit and like remember, like, okay, well, if you're going to be doing this, you're going to have to be able to hold it together and communicate with people, you know, because I'm naturally a shy person. So I kind of stay to myself, but in the environment where other people are sharing and it's a common bond, you know, it's quite different. So yeah, it's really interesting. That's a really interesting piece of it for me.
So we have a question for you, Yolanda. The question is, what resources would you provide to those who may not have access to mental health services?
Okay, just let me preface this by saying I am not an expert by any means. I'm not an expert. I'm just actually just, as you said, Carly, learning as I go. You know, a month after I lost Elijah in 2017, I think I heard Logic's song, which has the National Suicide Hotline number. And I kept hearing this number, like, what is that number? You know, and then I started hearing little things. So I Googled it and I found the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And that has been a good resource for me. I think they have them all over the United States in different cities and different states. So that would be one resource. There you can become an advocate for suicide prevention, which means if they have legislation that comes through with your specific politicians in your area, you can send the email to support whichever act they're trying to pass to help further along suicide prevention. And I also suggest therapy. You know, I mean, I'm in therapy, you know, it's necessary, you know, and this film also was a therapeutic for me. It was like a purging of my pain. You know, I couldn't walk around with that on the inside of me. That would have destroyed me. So I had to get it out.
Okay, so I have a question for all the filmmakers here. All right, so you all are, you know, how difficult was it to put a film in a short format? And do any of you have any plans to make any of your films a feature film at some point?
I think that I struggled really for a while with that because there was so much information that I had, you know, and because like I said, it's the first one, I wasn't really, you know, I was learning, so I figured, I said, we'll keep it short. But for me, I have more information to find out. You know, Elijah has more devices here that are still locked, you know, and there are devices and belongings in New York City that I still have yet to retrieve from the police station. And his room is still the same as when he walked out on May 19th, 2016. So I'm still trying to put all of it together. There may be a part 2, you know, a follow-up, you know, so yeah.
All right, let's see.
For us, I didn't even think about it until my friend Jessica, who's watching right now, she was like, I can see this be a feature. And then I thought about how we were kind of struggling with keeping it only on the screen, or like being able to pull back and be like, what is Fran in real life and what are his struggles off screen? So I was like, maybe if like that was going to be a feature, I think it would be pulling back and actually like shooting and seeing what he is behind the YouTube videos. So I think that would be a way that we would be able to turn it into a feature. But yeah.
And what about you, Jeanette? I think that yours would be pretty cool as a feature film.
You know what's funny? I never thought about it as a feature because I just thought it was so perfect as in the short format, like the fact that it took place in one day. But I do, you know, I am writing longer form stories, specifically a series, and of course I'm going to include Afro-Latinos, and you know, I tend to have a kind of a same style in writing, and you know, adding that humor and those really great characters, and hopefully that's just going to continue. It won't necessarily be about an actress going to auditions, though. So it's kind of
like Awkward Black Girl when Issa Rae first came out with her kind of.
Yeah, that well, you know, something I feel like I kind of like you know, hover between drama and comedy. So I would love to extend that into like a series format with these kinds of characters, not necessarily with that exact story.
Okay, and so Delilah.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to that? Like, what would you like to see as far as like your film?
So I know Stephanie just said this right now, but the thing about the things that we want to make is just continuing making these kind of stories, things that represent who we are, things that represent our first gen experiences with our family members. Because again, Stephanie and I and Daniel always talk about is we don't want stereotypes always to be seen. Because as we work in the entertainment space and we see, and sometimes we're at work and we're in these meetings and we're like, oh, that's not how that really goes, right? So we want to make sure that we're in the spaces and we're saying the things that we want to say, and we want to make the things we want to see, because we know we have those experiences, not these like executives who are like in their ideas, pitching their ideas or their stereotypes of our cultures, all of us, Black and brown or whatever. So that's what we plan on doing. We're making a lot of other stuff, so stay tuned. Probably not doing part 2, but like other things.
I hear you. Let's see. So let's see who we else got. So Carly, what about you?
Yes. So I guess in terms of it being a short, I was fortunate. Maybe I had a time limit for the class that I made it for, so it had to fit in the 5-minute range, which is extremely difficult. When someone tells you have to, it's like there's never enough time. But I think because of the time limit, we were able to make it kind of pack a good punch in 5 minutes. So I'm not sure that I would ever want to extend it or turn it into a feature, but I think there would be an opportunity for that kind of story to be told. So
yeah, because I want to know what happened to her. Like I want to know what happened. I have to make it for me too. I want to know.
I want to know too.
So,
I will work on that.
So let's see here. All right. So I want to ask you, Carly, okay, so I want to ask everybody, what do you want people to take away from your films?
Okay, I will start. I think specifically with this film, what I wanted people to take away from it is just kind of that added level of awareness of things that happen to people who are not in your demographic. So I think that's a really hard thing that, you know, even for myself, like it's hard for people to recognize what is outside of their own experience. And so I think all of these films really spoke to that, which is what I really enjoyed, is kind of recognizing that people have problems that are different than your problems. And if we can find a way to all help each other, then maybe we can make some really important changes. So that was my goal.
Okay, and I have a question here, a Q&A question, and Jessica Garcia wants to know, why does on-screen representation matter to you?
I think that's so important. I mean, for all of us, I'm guessing that at a certain point we have not seen ourselves on screen and stories that we relate to, and it gets really hard. And I think, especially for people that are younger than me and everyone coming up and aspiring to be something in this industry or even outside, it's really important to see that that's possible on the screen, because that's, I think, where we all learn a lot. So.
All right, and I got a question for Daniel. All right, and the person wants to know, for Danny, how did you prepare yourself for your character?
That's hard. I don't know. I think I kind of just like didn't. It's funny because as I was writing it, I kind of always write it not knowing if I'm going to play it or not having that kind of like pressure on it, right? Because I think as an actor, I think you can get in your head like, oh, I can't play this, right? Or this is too. So when I'm writing, I just try and not think of that. But it's funny. So I wrote it, and then we were producing it and everything. And it wasn't until a couple days later that a couple days before the shoot that I was like, oh crap, I have to play this. But I think you know, there are parts of myself in Fran, which I think made it easy, right? I'm Latino and queer. But there are also things about Fran, you know, I don't wear makeup on a regular basis, right? I'm not as fabulous as Fran is. And so I think as a queer man myself, like understanding the queerness looks different for people was a big push for me too. And I remember Diego Lucas, who's the person who did the makeup and wardrobe for Fran on Dreamer. They were helping me, they helped me a lot kind of prepare for the character. And one thing that they said was like, trying to imagine what Daniel would be like if Daniel didn't have sort of like the gender role limitations placed on him by society, right? So like, who would I be if I wasn't sort of conditioned to be a certain way, right? Like, who knows, maybe I would be super into makeup if it wasn't like hounded into me as a kid that like, that's gay and being gay is bad and you shouldn't do that. And so that's kind of how I prepared, is I imagined what I would be like if I didn't have those sort of limitations placed on myself.
Okay, so we have a message here from Valerie Fox, and she wants you guys to know, she said, amazing job. Thank you for sharing your stories and journey. Yeah, and let's see who else we got here. We got a lot of stuff coming in. This is hard. I'm doing this with my iPhone, and I'm looking at my iPad, and I'm like, where am I going? So you guys, this is all new for me, just like it's new for you. So I'm just trying to like figure this all out. So let's see who's in the chat. Let's see.
Representation. I feel like it's just beautiful to see all, like, us filmmakers here, you know, all like BIPOC, like women, you know, queer. Like, I think it's just a beautiful panel to be part of, because that's kind of what representation's about, you know, like us creating those stories. And I think that's kind of what aids on-screen representation. So I think the more people who look like us tell these stories, like the more we'll be able to, you know, see on screen more in Hollywood. So.
All right, so let's see.
We're sort of running out of time a little bit, so we can probably have one, you know, last question if people just want to wrap up with saying what they want people to take away. I think that's a really important thing for people who are going to be watching this, because it's recorded. Just to ask you that question about what do you want people to take away? Just like so Yolanda?
Just that mental health is definitely important. It's something that we all need to be more mindful of,
Yep. Jeanette?
Well, that the Latinx community is incredibly diverse, and it has so many identities within that, including racial identities. And when you make one group of those people completely invisible, it's detrimental to the people involved, but also to everyone. Yeah, there's too many countries in Latin America for there to only be one or two, types of people that are allowed to be Latinx.
Okay. Carly?
So,
Did she answer?
Oh, yep, here I am. I mean, I kind of touched on this already, but just that, there are a lot of different types of people in the world, and that, our stories are important, and recognizing when other people have different experiences than you is really important. And I'm going to second what Steph said. It's been really, really exciting to hear all of you speak, and a great panel to be a part of. So.
All right. Well, Lisa, is the time up?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you guys still gonna wrap it up. And I just want to say to all of you guys, as a fellow artist, because I'm a writer as well, and I do a whole bunch of other stuff. We're not gonna get into that. But as like a writer and as just a fellow artist, I just want to say, keep doing what you're doing. It's good to see everybody smiling. Everybody looks really happy about their accomplishments. Keep doing what you're doing. That's it. And so it's time to end. So for all the Roxbury Film Festival people out there, you can stay on for a few minutes. Remember, if you have not already viewed the films, get on the website, go on to Roxbury Film Festival and get your film passes, and yeah, enjoy the films. But thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Lisa, and the Roxbury Film Festival for having me host this. And see you guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining. All you people in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, all you beautiful people.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.